We're going to have yet another look at Delmont. It is a place where a lot of things happened, even though there were periods when it was kind of a sleepy little town. We're looking at the main road, east and west. We're looking east at what was one time called the William Penn Highway. In the background, you can see the steeple of the Lutheran Church. This is probably the 1920s, around there. This shows the place somewhat earlier than that, and I'll give you an impression. This is the road we were looking down, and that's the Lutheran Church, whose steeple we could see. That's a cemetery out back. And next we'll see something about a tannery. There was a tannery in town. This mapping is from the 1860s. Robert Shields was running a tannery right beside the stream here. Tanneries needed a lot of water. The water was coming from over here, and when it got to this point, some of that water was put in the community trough, the watering trough, and I mention that because we should see a picture of that too. This is the registry or directory of people. If you look at the people there and you're from that area, you might see names of people you were related to. That's Robert Shields, the guy who was running the tannery. Tanner, currier, and farmer. We'll also see a thing of his farm. Currier was a person who dressed leather, who processed it to make it more supple, and it was more easy to use. This is that tannery we are looking at right here on Pittsburgh Street, East Pittsburgh Street. That is that very location. That's where Robert Shields lived. His father bought that from a guy named Hutton sometime around or before 1825, and the tannery was in the back. That's Robert Shields, a picture that appeared in George Dallas Albert's History of the County. And Shields had a son named Sam. And Sam, before the Civil War, had a store right here. He was a soldier, a sergeant in the Civil War, and he came home to Delmont. This place has been changed radically. You can see the siding and other features put on. This is Delmont right here. And this green area out here, at this point, belonged to Sam Shields. This mapping is from around 1912. I had a green because the Shields family were Irish. This area over here relates to the time when coal was starting to become a big issue around Delmont. The New York and Cleveland Gas Coal Company was developing these properties. Dunningtown and Ringertown, White Valley out here. These all became very, very important as far as giving work to the people in the area and making the place economically viable. This is again on Pittsburgh Street. This is the wooden trough that I told you about. And it was not just a convenience. I mean, at one time, there was no running water in Delmont, so people had to come there and get water, the ones that didn't have wells, and that was probably at the beginning, a lot of them. And they met their neighbors there. And it became sort of a symbol of the fraternity and, the unity of the place. It was a place where people knew one another, got together, and met their neighbors at the watering trough. This again is that very watering trough. And it was no doubt an event because the guys were obviously all dressed up for something. We aren't told just what. They had their derbies on and their good clothes probably. A lot of them had ties on. The trough was at this point made out of wood. And not long after this, it was replaced by a cement trough, which in the 1930s got banged by a big old truck and destroyed again. And that had to be replaced yet again by, I think, another wooden trough. This brings up another subject and takes us out to the far western end of town. We are told this was the old toll gate house, the old toll house. At a toll gate where money was collected for using the highway, there would usually be a person or persons living there, often a family. And this was perhaps the place when it was falling into disrepair. This is the place out here, out on the far western end of town. This mapping comes from the 1870s. And it's called the Carson Estate at this point. And this was a newer house that replaced that old log house. The Carson was a preacher in the Presbyterian Church, and by this time he was dead, and it's his estate. This was the Carson house, and out in front of that sat that old log toll house. And I think that's enough for right now. And I'll see you again to say a few more things about Delmont. And bye for now.